knocks in a micro away from the approach, focusing out stalkers one by one.
Coming in from every single angle. There's a Time Warp, but look at this concave, this crescent moon.
What's the fight? This is what's going to happen now. The supply goes in Huck's favor.
He's just gonna barrel through, take out whatever. So much bile here coming forth.
Looking like Nesty is going to take it here.
Dancing the roaches a little bit. Scarlet.
Now the Hydras are exposed. Those Mutas are going to die, and it's not really going to make that much of a difference with GG.
Welcome to the WCS America Premier League. I'm Axlev here with Sham2, casting this from New York City. We're still in the round of 32, but we're closing on the final day here.
It's going to be an exciting set of matches today, but let's first quickly look at what happened yesterday as our previous group went live. We had Rotterdam in the studio, which was great. Rotterdam brought out a lot of fire, and it was a lot of great casting coming out of him. It was great. It was his birthday, but let's take a look at who advanced so far to round of 16, given yesterday's results up to date. Hero, Alive, Suppy, Ryung, Pol, a bunch of awesome players. Suppy, of course, winning my heart.
Definitely some great play by Suppy. Of course, joining those, we've seen Apocalypse, the SEC, Snoot, Alicia, Revival, Nesty, Moonglade, Scarlet, and Violet. These 14 players have already advanced to the round of 16. Just 2 more names will be added to that list to make it a full 16 players that we're going to see them about 10 days from now, excuse me. They're going to come in live and play their games right here at the studio. It's going to be very exciting. But of course, yesterday we did see Revival advance and Polta as well. It wasn't the best day for Idra in particular. Ghost User, he actually took out Revival in the first match, but then lost to Polt, and then lost to Revival again in that final match, making Revival and Polt the 2 people to advance from yesterday's matches. Of course, that brings us to today, the final group of the round of 32. We've got 4 great players here. We've got Huck, Sen, Crank, and Capoch.
And that's going to be a great set of matches. A lot of PvP, of course, as well as ZVP. That's what we're going to be starting off with today. Sen and Capoch. And they're both great players. Capoch a little bit less known, but I feel like he can definitely bring some fire today. He's a little bit unexpected. Not many people know his build so far. And then Crank versus Huck. I mean, that's going to be probably my favorite match of the night so far. But let's take a look at Sen and Capoch. What are you thinking between these 2 players?
Well, Sen is a very, very beast of a non-Korean player. I don't know if I've actually ever seen Sen lose a series to a non-Korean, and I've seen him in many, many different tournaments. This guy, when he goes up against the best, he just absolutely slaughters them. A lot of people don't always recognize this because he doesn't compete in as many events. Of course, very involved in the Taiwan scene over there. But when he does go out, he pretty much consistently makes top 4 finishes. You can see there multiple 3rd places in big international events, and even at WCS Global last year, he took 4th place. Top 3, of course, were all world-class Korean players, right. In fact, all Protosses, but
yeah, and boasting a 66% win rate against Protoss. All of his opponents today are going to be Protoss, so I think he's going to be doing pretty well. Of course, playing for Team Gamma Bears, which has one of my favorite logos out of any of the teams that I've known. And 26 years old, actually kind of old for a StarCraft player.
He's been around for a long time.
Yes,
he was a former Brood War professional as well.
One of
the
my
best
favorites.
In that region. Of course, going up against him is going to be Capoch. And Capoch, of course, a little bit lesser known.
Yeah.
But definitely the strongest RTS player from Argentina in pretty much every RTS game ever made. This guy's always been in the competitive scene.
I've been hearing a lot about people saying that he's been training really hard lately, and I'm really excited to see, if any of those rumors are going to come to light tonight. Possibly going to be pulling out some build orders and, just play styles that we haven't really seen from any of our players before. Playing for Isurus Gaming, and he's also 26, so actually 2 26-year-olds going to be going off in our first match.
It's nice to see some people a little bit older. Sometimes you see a lot of these high schoolers go at it, but this time veterans of the competitive RTS scene. Of course, we did get a chance to speak with Capoch just a little bit and see what he had to say. Of course, he says he feels like he has the least chances in advancing, amidst the giants of Huck, Sen, and Crank in this group. But he's training a lot, and right now what he wants to do, he wants to focus on playing his best. And I actually really like this quote. A lot of people come in and saying, oh, if he doesn't feel confident. No, it's not him not feeling confident. It's him saying, all I'm focused on is playing my best.
Yeah.
I'm not going to look at the win-loss or whatever. I want to make sure I play to the best of my abilities. And that actually reminds me a lot of Flash's mentality. Flash is a guy, of course, a legend, and he's amazing. And part of what makes him amazing is whether he wins or loses, that's not really what matters. To him, it's how well am I playing, how fast am I improving, am I playing to my own expectations? And those expectations, of course, are set incredibly high.
And that's all you can really ask for in a game like StarCraft 2, is just to continually play your best, and as long as you're improving in some way. I mean, he's not completely out of this just yet. He's in the Premier League, so even if he gets knocked out of here tonight, he's going to be going down to the Challenger League. And so he's going to have a whole bunch more opponents to play, and of course, with more and more training, more time, he can possibly, get back in next season. But guys, I think we have our game set up already. It's going to be on Star Station, and it's going to be Sen versus Capoch in the first map. So excited to see this.
It's going to be very exciting. I'm really interested to see what type of builds Capoch comes out with. I mean, we seen that he's the #1 player from Argentina. He won WCS 2012 in Argentina. He's played Warcraft 3 in the past competitively, Age of Empires, Dawn of War, pretty much every real-time strategy out there. So he has so much experience using a wide variety of different units, and he has a different outlook towards StarCraft than some of the guys who just come from a traditional Brood War background like Sen.
All right, guys, so it looks like both of our players, well, one of our players is ready, just waiting for the word from Capoch, and then we'll get into our game. And Capoch, I mean, you're just saying, he's got a very diverse background, and I think that's one of the best ways to come into this game. When you have the very StarCraft Brood War mentality, you're going to be very focused and really good at StarCraft. But if you are able to think about it as a different type of game, it's like checkers and chess and Go and all the different types of play styles, I think it's going to open up your ability to come up with new things that people haven't thought of before.
It definitely will. Of course, he's going to be up against Sen, who's an extremely, extremely talented guy. Anything but coming out first in this group, I think Sen would be disappointed in. Sen's just so insanely gifted. If he's not up against, someone who's a multiple championship title holder, he expects himself to win.
And, I mean, he's definitely proven with his results that he wins as often as he expects to win. So, I'm really scared for Capoch, but then again, I'm sure Sen is a little bit scared because he hasn't had the ability to really study his players. We don't have too many videos of Capoch around the internet, to really study his playstyle. So I think that's where he's going to have his strength, coming in here being the less known player.
It definitely will be. Of course, the player we're talking about is the blue Protoss in the top right hand of Star Station. He is Capoch. And his opponent, at the bottom left, the man with the seemingly invincible aura, Sen.
This game is going to be, I think, a really great starter. Sen is just such a solid player, and I hear a lot about Capoch being an incredibly aggressive player. So, I mean, we're already seeing the pylon go on in his base. Probably going to be a gateway expand. But if not, if he's going to actually hold up to the rumors that I hear about him being an incredibly aggressive player, who knows what we're going to see from him. Possibly just some incredibly crazy one-base play. And those always prove to be the most exciting games, because Protoss one-base...
You never really see it.
Yeah.
Especially against Zerg. It's basically, it's considered not really effective. Capoch, of course, is one of the top GMs on the North American ladder, so he definitely has a lot of experience playing against the top-level Zergs. He's very... knowledgeable about the current metagame and all the builds that Sen might throw out at him. And I'm sure he knows Sen's style as well. Sen, known for this macroing up in crazy, crazy intense armies. I feel Sen and Nesty are very similar in a lot of ways as far as the way that they like to play the game. Mass macro, muted transitions, and just overwhelming their opponent just from raw mechanics.
But, unlike Nesty, I don't think Sen created the world. I don't think so. I might be wrong. I mean, there's pretty much there's pretty much scripture putting out there right now of Nesty creating the world. But Sen is definitely right behind him in religious aspects of being just such an incredibly godly level Zerg player. Now going for a really quick 3 hatcheries here, so, you know, as you said, building up that macro, getting to the point, you know, going to be able to try and get to that point as quick as possible of just being able to pump out an incredibly huge army.
I really like this 3 hatch build. It shows that Sen, you know, has his own style. This is something I've seen a couple Zergs do, but it's not super common. And a lot of it's a reaction to Protoss is more often using gateway expands now because, of course, you don't need the Zerglings early unless there's a potential threat of a cannon rush. One Zeld, of course, can cross the map, but it's not going to do too much damage. And by the time a Stalker can get over there, you're going to have units out.
Nice little probe, just going to go around, hang out, grab some minerals, and then start building some more stuff. Probes are pretty much, that's all they can do, unfortunately. They can taser things. They have a little R2-D2 taser, but not effective in your army, unfortunately. I think a probe army would be probably one of the scariest armies, because they're so cute and cuddly. They're small and unexpected.
They are. You know, there's some interesting, at least in Brood War, some interesting Zeld probe early rushes, just using the fact that if the probe shoots a Zergling once, then the Zeld can then 2-shot it even without having that +1 upgrade, as well as also preventing them from being surrounded and helping the path. But StarCraft 2, really just mostly using them for the economy, focusing on mining. I don't think I've ever seen a Protoss pull probes aggressively ever in StarCraft 2.
I think I've seen it, and I think it was, you know, in those incredibly desperate situations, and they still just don't do anything. You can pull all your probes. It could be 100 probes, and they still don't really do anything at all. So Zealot and Zergling are going to have a little bit of contention for this this Zelnaga. Actually, no, they're not. No, they're just going to walk right past each other. And we're going to have 2 Zealots, and the Mothership Core going to put on a little bit of pressure here.
Oh, and proxy pylons are going up as well. He's on 3 gateways, or excuse me, warp gates. He has warp gate technology already. All 3 warp gates are morphed and ready to go. Sen needs some units to defend this. This is a very aggressive push.
And Sen's not building anything at all. He's got a Roach Warren on the way, but that's going to be a bit far out here. I mean, so far, only 2 Zergling out on the map. The proxy pylon has finished here, and this is going to be really great punishment of the incredibly greedy style that Sen would play.
Sen might just give up the 3rd and drone up 2 bases and say, okay, if you're going to commit that much to aggression, I don't even need that 3rd hatchery anymore. Or perhaps he's going to try to desperately use speeding to save it, but with this many Zealots, that 3rd hatchery is going to fall down. But remember, he hasn't lost any drones yet, so losing a 3rd hatchery is not the, you know, that big a deal in the circumstance where the Protoss isn't teching up at all.
Oh, and a whole bunch of Zergling are going to run by and try and go for that proxy pylon, but unfortunately, the Zealots are just completely too quick for that. And they were instantly able to get a nice surround before the Zergling were able to take out the proxy pylon. More and more Zealots being warped in here. And this is an incredibly large army of Zealots, so many blades, and they are not afraid to die for ire.
No, they're not. Of course, I don't think this push can do too much further on creep. Roaches are significantly faster than those Zealots. They can kite them very effectively. And of course, if the Zealots commit to the battle on creep, the Speedings will take out all these proxy pylons. But Capoch notices this, right? He's started back to resuming that probe production. He's built his forge, so he can go ahead and just, you know, play a 2-base versus 2-base situation. Yes, he doesn't have too much tech, but a Zerg ideally would like to have 3 bases. So a fairly even game here so far.
Yeah, I really liked, you know, punishing that style coming out there from Sen, and, you know, if he can catch Sen before Sen gets comfortable, then I think Capoch is going to have a little bit of a better chance here. Pulls those Zealots back, doesn't have a recall on that Mothership Core because he did throw down that Time Warp. And so, unfortunately, his Zealots will have to run all the way back home. Roaches following suit, and they're going to be taking out yet another proxy pylon and moving around the map, taking a little bit map control back here.
Overlord Scout goes down for Sen, but doesn't see too much. Of course, that's because there isn't too much in Capoch's base right now, just gateways and robotics facility. He did cut some probe production to make that attack work, so he's trying to basically rebuild his infrastructure and tech right now.
But they're relatively on the same amount of drones and probes right now, 46 to 42. And Sen, you know, hasn't been droning up too much, making a whole bunch of roaches to try and punish this play a little bit. But a lot of gateway units out here from Capoch, and he's actually able to get some really great force fields down and catch a couple of those roaches.
A nice win for him there. Of course, 5-6 roaches. If Sen was on 3-4 bases up and running with 60-70 drones, it wouldn't be that big a deal. But right now, Sen, of course, he wants to keep Capoch back on a defensive, and he also wants to build nothing but drones for the next 30 seconds or so. So every roach he loses really hurts his ability to keep Capoch back in his base.
Here come those roaches yet again, but the Photon Overcharger is still active on the Nexus, going to scare them away. Meanwhile, Capoch is starting to build up a pretty sizable force. He's got Immortal now coming out. Another one is already out. He's got Sentries and all the original Zealots from before. I don't think he actually even lost a single Zealot before.
No, only when the roaches counterattacked, he did lose a couple there. But going forward, he's going to be looking to do this Immortal timing. Of course, this is a little bit of an unusual timing in this circumstance. We've seen this build more classically executed where the Protoss goes straight for this timing. But Capoch, of course, did that Zealot pressure first, slowing his timing down slightly, but the Zerg is significantly delayed as well.
I mean, those Zealots will be able to be used later on in these battles, as the Zealots will be able to tank a lot of the damage and keep the roaches far away enough so that the Immortals can outrange them. So that could be a really nice little factor here in Capoch and not losing too much in that initial push. But the thing is here is that Sen has gotten up to 64 drones and started pumping out a lot of roaches here. We can see how many roaches in the unit counting station. He's got 23, and it doesn't look like he's stopping. He's got 10 more on the way, plus 1 ranged weapons as well, and Glial Reconstitution, so those roaches are going to be super fast and going to be able to get into a great concave if Sen really needs to engage this army before it gets to his base.
He'll definitely want to try to force out a couple force fields wherever he can. He wants to find the best position to engage it. Of course, Capoch coming around the bottom side where it's a little bit less creep down in low ground, and as he pushes up here, he's got to be careful about a really great unit spread by Sen.
Now here comes that concave I was mentioning. A couple force fields are going to go down, but not too many. Actually, force fields not grabbing too much, just protecting the Protoss army. Spending a lot of energy on those force fields, though.
He is, and of course he's afraid to move up too far where Sen can strike him from 3 directions at once. He is going up. Sen's coming in from the right. He's coming down from the top, and he escapes with only minimal losses on the roach count while forcing out several force fields.
And here he comes, Capoch with his army. He's taking on a very small army of Sen's, but Sen rallying more and more roaches. Now a complete surround from Sen. Is he going to be able to take out this entire army? This is going to be a great win for Sen if he can, but Capoch, he's trying to stay alive as long as possible. Is there going to be a recall? The Mothership Core does not have enough energy.
Oh man, there's just not enough force fields there. Too many were forced out earlier. The spread and flank of Sen was just too strong. And now speed roaches versus stalkers, that's no competition at all. The stalkers are going to be taken out. Capoch is going to be down to just 2 bases versus his opponent's 3 with no tech army to back him up.
And he spent the time warp on the Mothership Core, which I think could have saved that army. As soon as that surround went down, I think he could have recalled and been in a worse, a not awful position like he is right now. It's 173 to 77 in the food supply count, and that's going to be a difficult thing to come back from.
It definitely is. Either way, he has a very low probe count as well. Only, 2 bases, not even fully saturated 2 bases against an opponent who has 3 bases mining and who has the speed roach tech upgrades. He could easily go into other techs as well. Sen going to try to push forward here and end the game. No force fields left, no photon overcharge. The Immortal's laying some good damage, but once those front units die and the roaches spill in, I don't think he can stop them all by himself.
That's right. That was pretty much the last force field in this army, and the Sentry is going to have to turn tail and run away. The Immortal's now being targeted down by the roaches. Hardened shields have fallen. One Immortal's actually just going to hang out behind the mineral line. He's too afraid to fight. He's going to try and stay alive, keep his name true, being immortal. But unfortunately, Sen takes game number 1 in a rather convincing counter push.
A very, very great play by Sen there. Heads up play to start saying, you know what? If he's going to do the Zealot push, I'm just going to give up the 3rd base, lose that hatchery, and it's totally fine because I have still 2 full bases and he sacrificed tech to get rid of my 3rd hatchery. And then in this engagement, he keeps striking from multiple angles. He's able to escape with mainly these roaches and not have them trapped by force fields. And then once Capoch ran out of force fields, the roaches hit from multiple angles and just totally overwhelmed his force.
Kind of baited him out there with a smaller roach army, and it looked like Capoch was like, I can take on this small army. And then all of a sudden, Sen, using his patience and just waiting so long to get his roaches completely surrounding the forest, just came in and just took it out so quickly.
Great game by Sen there. Of course, he's going to win the first game, but it is a best of 3 series. We'll be right back with game number 2 after a short break.